Stocks trend upward as the economy starts to open back up again. Tony Evers loosens the vice on Wisconsin. We'll talk a bit about what's going on there. Elon Musk opens up his factory but may be leaving California altogether. And the Supreme Court is hearing cases about the tax returns. Yet again. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, everybody, and thank you to everybody who came by and listened to my talk with Adam Kokesh last night. It looked like we actually had some new viewers in here, and that was pretty great. It looks like we even got a couple new followers as we went along, so it was a great conversation. I was really glad to have him on the show. I know we kind of caught him at a bad mood at the end of it when we decided we had to talk about the Ahmaud Arbery case, but such is life. He played it cool, and we got to see the compound, and I do hope that he makes some traction in his bid for the presidency. We've got a ton to get to today, including, my God, they're going to do this tax return thing again. Again, people, we're going to have to listen to this all over again, but before we get started, head on over to freedomscoop.com. FreedomScoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary. We've got the Generational Gap, who had a great show last night, and they're going to be having our newest creators, Freckles and Britt, on over there, and we have Freckles and Britt. We've got the R-rated conservative, Wyatt Birkenhoff, Stephen Ignoramus, and Ed's World, so go and check that out over there. It's a great time, and we're getting new merch as we go along. New merch coming along every day, so go and check us out. So let's start, of course, with... Let's get the new scene up. Or maybe we won't get the new scene up. Okay, so we won't have this new scene today. So we'll just read it the old-fashioned way while I figure out what's wrong with OBS. What isn't wrong with OBS? So, starting today with Investors Business Daily. The Dow Jones Futures reverse higher. Chip leaders AMD, Intel headline 5 stocks in or near buy zones in coronavirus stock market rally. This is from Scott Latonin. Dow Jones Futures erased sharp losses to turn higher early Tuesday morning, along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures. Dow Jones leaders Intel and Microsoft headlined these 5 top stocks near buy zones in the coronavirus stock market rally. The coronavirus stock market rally extended gains Monday with solid advances in the tech-heavy NASDAQ composite. Meanwhile, Dow Jones leaders Intel and Microsoft are in or near buy zones. Top growth stocks Chipotle, Mexican Grill, and Lululemon are in new buy areas, while chip giant Advanced Micro Devices, AMD, is approaching a new buy point. Late Monday, IPO stock leader Datadog reported strong earnings results amid a mild advance after the close. Early Tuesday, around 7:45 a.m. Eastern Time, Dow Jones Futures gained 0.4% versus fair value after losing as much as 1% overnight, while S&P 500 futures moved up 0.3%. NASDAQ 100 futures rallied 0.3% versus fair value ahead of the stock market open. Remember, overnight action in Dow Jones Futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. Among exchange-traded funds, Innovator IBD 50 gained 1.7% Monday, extending a win streak to 3 sessions. The ETF of top growth stocks remains about 14% off its 52-week high. The Nasdaq-linked Invesco QQQ ETF moved up 0.9% to close at 226.87. Meanwhile, the SPDR S&P 500 ETF rallied less than 0.1% to 292.62. On Monday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average pared losses to 109 points after falling more than 250 points at the stock market open. The S&P 500 inched higher while Nasdaq outperformed with a 0.8% advance. Within the coronavirus stock market rally, the tech-heavy Nasdaq is once again positive for 2020 and is up 2.5% through Monday's close. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 and Dow Jones Industrial Average are down 9.3% and 15.1% respectively through May 11th. The coronavirus outbreak continues to spread across the U.S., according to the Worldometer data tracker. The cumulative number of confirmed U.S. cases is approaching 1.4 million Monday. Despite the rising total, the daily number of new cases is steady, not rising amid the sharp increase in testing. On Sunday, there were about 20,000 new confirmed cases, the lowest daily increase since March 29th. So we're ramping up testing, and we definitely are at this point. And on top of that, we're getting flatline to lower new cases, even if we are ramping up testing. So consider that as we go forward. Confirmed COVID-19 cases worldwide climbed above 4.2 million, with more than 280,000 virus-related deaths. With the daily number of new cases steady, investors in the U.S. are turning attention to the economic impact of the coronavirus outbreak and how fast the country reopens for business. According to IBD's The Big Picture, the stock market continues to strengthen after hitting lows over a month ago on March 23rd. The major stock indices confirmed a new uptrend on April 2nd. According to Friday's Big Picture, there's been growing talk lately of a disconnect between the stock market and the economy. This is true, but keep in mind that the stock market is always looking ahead. The strong rally off lows is the market's way of saying the market sees better times ahead for the U.S. economy. Stocks to watch include the top stocks and IBD long-term leaders. The IBD long-term leaders list focuses on companies with stable earnings growth and price performance. And I looked at the stocks yesterday too. I just looked at those this morning, and we had a pretty sharp drop at the beginning, but we rallied ahead and ended ahead just a little bit from where we started yesterday. And now it looks like we see the trend up again. For whatever reason, in this market, it seems that daily there's a drop right at the beginning, and then it just kind of steadily upticks back up to the point where we finish higher than we started, which is a good thing, I think. All right, next is from CNBC. 5 things to know before the stock market opens Tuesday. This is from Matthew J. Belvedere. 1. Stock futures rise after the tech rally drove NASDAQ higher for the 6th straight session. Futures were pointing to an over 100-point advance at Tuesday's open after the Dow Jones Industrial Average broke a 2-session winning streak. However, the NASDAQ continued to be the big winner on Wall Street, logging its 6th straight gain Monday. The tech-heavy index was up 2.4% for the year and just 6% below its February record high. The fallout from the coronavirus economic halt has hit the broader stock market harder. The Dow is down 15% this year and 18% below its February record. The S&P 500 is off over 9% in 2020 and 13.6% below its February all-time high. The Federal Reserve on Tuesday is in one of several unprecedented programs to help keep the market functioning during the pandemic will start purchasing shares of exchange-traded funds that invest in bonds. The Fed said the preponderance of its ETF holdings will be in funds that primarily invest in highly rated U.S. corporate bonds known as investment grade. The rest of the Fed's ETF holdings will be in U.S. high-yield corporate bonds. Number 2, Fauci to issue a dire warning to the states starting to relax coronavirus restrictions. Dr. Fauci, the nation's top leading infectious disease specialist and a key member of Trump's White House coronavirus task force, reportedly plans to warn on Tuesday that states reopening their economies too soon will cause needless suffering and death. On Monday night, the New York Times' Cheryl Gay Stolberg said Fauci had sent her an email ahead of this public testimony Tuesday at a remote Senate hearing. As states across America start to ease lockdown, South Korea and China are experiencing an uptick in cases after restrictions were eased. In the Chinese city of Wuhan, the epicenter of the outbreak, officials plan to test its 11 million residents over a 10-day period. Globally, cases approached 4.2 million with 286,615 deaths. According to data from Johns Hopkins, early Tuesday, the U.S. has had the most infections, more than 1.3 million, including 80,684 deaths. Trump faces coronavirus at the White House. Coronavirus infection rates are spiking to new highs in several metropolitan areas and smaller communities across the U.S. According to unreleased data, the White House's pandemic task force uses to track new cases. The data obtained by NBC News was at odds with the president's declaration Monday that all throughout the country the numbers are coming down rapidly. A memo to staff Monday directed everyone who enters the West Wing to wear a mask or facial covering. The directive, after 2 staffers tested positive last week, apparently doesn't apply to the president. Boeing Hyatt worried about the future of travel. Boeing CEO David Calhoun told NBC News he believes that a major U.S. airline could go out of business this year. Yes, most likely, something will happen when September comes around, he said. In response to Calhoun's comment, a Boeing spokesman said the CEO was speaking to the general uncertainty in the sector, not about one particular airline. Calhoun also told NBC News he does not expect passenger traffic to reach even a quarter of its levels in September. Hyatt Hotels said late Monday it will lay off 1,300 people globally as it tries to cope with the coronavirus crisis, which has virtually halted global travel by keeping people indoors. The hotel giant also cut pay for senior management, board members, and all employees as part of a restructuring. Last week, Hyatt reported a wider than expected quarterly loss and suspended its dividend and share buyback program. Excuse me. Musk practically dares authorities to arrest him at as a Fremont factory resumes production. Tesla CEO Elon Musk has confirmed that the company restarted production Monday at its Fremont factory located in Alameda County, California, south of San Francisco. The move defied a local government order against reopening what it considers non-essential business. In a tweet Monday, Musk practically dared authorities to arrest him. So those are the 5 things that you need to know. I'm pretty sure that Schumer put some elbow into Fauci to get the warning out there, but number one, I think more people are immune to this than we think is possible. But yes, you must be afraid of this. You must. Twitter will tell you what you must be afraid of, and you must be afraid of all of this. All right, next one. To KARE 11 News out of a local NBC affiliate out of Wisconsin. Wisconsin Governor Evers allows nearly all retail stores to open, with limits. Governor Tony Evers strongly encourages all shoppers and store workers to wear masks, but does not require it. From the Associated Press. Governor Tony Evers on Monday allowed nearly all non-essential businesses to reopen as long as they serve no more than 5 customers at a time, partially lifting the restriction that has kept them closed for weeks to slow the spread of the coronavirus. The latest order, which took effect immediately, addresses criticism from smaller businesses and Republican lawmakers that it was unfair to allow essential businesses such as grocery stores to remain open, while non-essential businesses such as flower shops had to close under Evers' Safer at Home order, which runs until May 26th, so he thinks. The latest order applies to all standalone stores and those in strip malls and have entrances to the outside, but not to stores in large indoor shopping malls. The order, issued by the Department of Health Services Secretary Andrea Palm at Evers' direction, strongly encourages all shoppers and store workers to wear masks, but does not require it. Everyone in the store must maintain a 6-foot distance from one another. Evers also allowed drive-in movie theaters to reopen. As far as I know, there's only one of those left in this state, as far as I know. This is another disciplined turn of the dial that will allow, a turn of the vice dial that will release just a little bit, that will allow Wisconsin business owners to safely get back to work and Wisconsin consumers to support their favorite local spots. Evers said in a statement, both customers and workers need to be confident in their safety, so we need everyone to be diligent in following best safety practices so we can continue to move our state forward while keeping our neighbors, families, and communities safe and healthy. The Wisconsin Supreme Court is weighing a Republican-backed lawsuit that seeks to block the extension of the order and take away the powers of Evers' health secretary to make similar orders in the future. Instead, the Evers administration would have to work with a GOP-controlled legislature on enacting a rule. What's the downside to that argument? Also on Monday, free community testing sites opened in Milwaukee and Madison. Of course it was Milwaukee and Madison. Expanding the number of locations where people can show up without an appointment to get screened for the highly contagious virus without having to leave their vehicles. The community testing sites are part of the state's ongoing effort to create testing sites in areas with a known lack of access to COVID-19 testing or with community spread, which is when health officials can't trace how a person contracted the disease. I hate to tell you this right now, but that's going to be every instance of the disease at this point is going to be outside of community trace, because I'm pretty sure, my parents were talking about this. My dad is pretty positive because they said he had a virus, but they couldn't identify the virus, and that was back in February, weeks before the first case was reported in Seattle. And I'm pretty sure that I had this back in December as well. Because if you remember, my ass was kicked all the time. I was out for the count. I had no energy whatsoever, and more respiratory issues than usual because of my affinity to smoke cigarettes for 20 years. But I digress on that. Yeah, I'm pretty positive that I had this already, and this was back well before they ever had a reported case. So, your contact trace, just forget about that kind of shit. All right, let's move on here to CNN. According to CNN poll, CNN is the best. That's not actually what's happening here, but that's essentially what we're going to see here. CNN poll, negative ratings for the government handling of coronavirus persist. This is from Jennifer Agista. Most Americans will continue to say the U.S. government is doing a poor job to preventing the spread of COVID-19, according to a new CNN poll conducted by the SSRS. Yet, just keep sticking that fear-porn needle in people's arms. And while a growing share of the public feels the worst of the outbreak is behind us, 44%, up from 17% in April, a majority still see the worst on the horizon. 52%. 4 in 10 Americans say that they personally know someone who's been diagnosed with the coronavirus, a figure that has nearly doubled in the last month, and most say the government is not doing enough to address the growing death toll, the limited availability of testing, and the potential for a second wave of cases later in the year. The new poll finds President Donald Trump's overall approval rating holding about even at 45%. His rating now matches his high point in CNN polling data back at the start of his term. But at the same time, the president's numbers for handling the coronavirus outbreak have worsened. 55% now disapprove, up from 48% in early March, 52% last month, and only 36% say they consider Trump a trusted source on information about the outbreak. Yeah, CNN unbiased polling. One of the sharpest partisan divides in the poll comes over where the U.S. stands in the coronavirus outbreak. Republicans have made a 180-degree turn on this question since April last month. Last month, 70% of Republicans said the worst was yet to come. Now 71% say the worst is behind us. Among Democrats and independents, the people who would listen to CNN, there have been more modest positive shifts, but majorities in each group still believe the worst is ahead. 74% of Democrats, 51% of independents feel that way. Roughly a third of Americans say they're afraid about the potential for deaths from coronavirus to reach 100,000 or higher in the U.S., and the same share an express fear about a potential second wave later this year. About a quarter say they're frightened by the limited availability of coronavirus testing, and roughly 1 in 6 say the same about shortages of basic food items and cleaning products. These feelings, too, are divided by party. Most Democrats say they are afraid of the possibility of a second wave or the rising death toll, while among Republicans, just 14% and 15% respectively feel the same way. And partisan splits the public on how the government is responding to the crisis. While 82% of Democrats say the federal government is generally doing a poor job, 80% of Republicans saying it's doing a good one. It's not doing a good job. And I'm neither, so there's a nearly 70-point chasm between the Democrats and Republicans over whether the government is doing enough to address the potential for the death toll to rise to 100,000 or higher. 81% of Republicans say the government is doing enough. Just 13% of Democrats agree. So, a lot of this does matter on where you're getting your news from, because Republicans and a lot of libertarians and independents get their news sources from Democrat sites, Republican sites, and independent sites. Whereas Democrats will just flock to CNN and MSNBC, and they think that Fox News needs to go into the dustbin, and God forbid Daily Wire ever exist again. So, yeah, we are definitely seeing this in the way that the polls come out as well, and the way that the media has divided us the way that they want it to. All right. From ABC 7 WJLA, Trump's Obamagate tweets time to rally base ahead of close election. I didn't want this here. Well, we're going to read it anyway. I wanted this closer to the end of the show. The Justice Department's decision to drop criminal charges against former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn came at an opportune time for President Donald Trump, who has shifted focus to what he has termed Obamagate. Over the weekend and through Monday, Trump sent out well over 100 tweets and retweets, many of them accusing top officials in the Obama administration of improperly targeting his administration through the Russia investigation, including the former president and vice president. The biggest political crime in America by far, Trump tweeted, "Obamagate makes Watergate look small time." The attack came, as former President Barack Obama warned that under Trump the rule of law was at risk. Obama was referring to the Flynn case dismissal in a call with administration alumni, according to Yahoo News. In the call, Obama, who has largely stayed on the sidelines of the 2020 campaign, urged his former colleagues to throw their weight behind Biden. Trump's timing has led many to accuse him of trying to distract from the coronavirus pandemic that has claimed 80,000 American lives and left more employed than the Great Depression. That's because your governors are telling you not to go to work. But highlighting the alleged abuses by the Obama administration, as well as former heads of the Justice Department and FBI, is a winner politically among Trump's base. Nothing energizes Trump's base more than this because they feel that they were wrong, said Republican strategist Ford O'Connell. Where that weighs in for 2020 is simple. The presidential candidate whose voters are most energized are going to the polls has won the presidency in the last 8 elections. Since the Justice Department withdrew charges against Flynn, Trump and members of his campaign have aggressively tarring the former president with the so-called Obamagate scandal while implicating the presumptive 2020 Democratic candidate, former Vice President Joe Biden. I don't think it's fair to implicate Joe Biden in this because Joe Biden has the mental acuity of a kumquat right now. And from what I understand, it wasn't much better when he was the vice president. He was a stand-in at one point, but it is what it is, of course. But the interesting thing about this, of course, is when we looked on Twitter yesterday and found that Obamagate had 3.84 million, sometimes 2 million. It depends on what expired and how fast it all expired, but it generally hung around 2 to 3 million retweets, or tweets, retweets, etc., over the last 24-hour period. And Twitter was promoting Trumpgate with about 13,000 tweets over the same period. And even now, when we look at the Twitter trending later on, we're going to see most likely Obamagate was still millions of tweets sitting out there, probably out of the list at this point, and promoting other stuff to try and distract us from all of this. So, yeah. All right, let's get back into the COVID. Trump abruptly ends press conference after contentious exchange with reporters. This is from Oliver Darcy over at CNN Business. One second. Excuse me. President Trump abruptly ended his Monday press conference after a contentious exchange in which he asked an Asian American journalist to ask China about her question, then refused to take a query from another White House reporter. Weijia Jiang, a White House correspondent for CBS News, asked the president why he sees coronavirus testing as a global competition when more than 80,000 Americans have died. "Maybe that's a question you should ask China," Trump told Jiang, who was born in China and immigrated to the United States when she was 2 years old. "Don't ask me. Ask China that question, okay?" China. Trump attempted to move on by calling on Caitlin Collins, a White House correspondent for CNN, but Jiang interjected with a follow-up question. "Sir, why are you saying that to me specifically?" Oh, Jesus Christ almighty. Oh, good Lord. Asked Jiang, who was visibly taken aback by Trump's demand. "I'm telling you," Trump replied. "I'm not saying it specifically to anyone. I'm saying it to anybody that asks a nasty question." "That's not a nasty question," Jiang said. "Why does it matter?" Trump then looked again to take a question from another reporter. Collins, who had let Jiang ask Trump her follow-up questions, approached the microphone. "I have 2 questions," Collins asked. "No, it's okay," Trump replied. "But you pointed to me," Collins said. "I have 2 questions, Mr. President. You called on me." "I did," Trump said. And you didn't respond, and now I'm calling on the young lady in the back. I just wanted to let my colleague finish, Collins explained, but can I ask you a question? Trump then ended the press conference. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, he said before leaving the Rose Garden. The president was strongly criticized by critics for the behavior he displayed. A very ugly ending to that 1 hour appearance by the president in the Rose Garden, CNN's Wolf Blitzer said. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders called the exchange pretty pathetic and wrote on Twitter that Trump is a coward who tears down others to make himself feel powerful and takes away all of the pudding cups out of the Capitol. Some critics said Trump's remarks toward Zhang were racist. Of course they did. Of fucking course they did. It wouldn't be the first time Zhang was confronted by racist remarks at the White House. Oh, Jesus, fuck. Zhang wrote on Twitter in March that the White House official, who she did not name, had referred to the coronavirus as Kung Flu. Oh, that was this bitch? Alright, I'm sick of this. The media trying to make sure that Trump looks as bad as possible in whatever way he possibly can. Spin some more, and you wonder why the Babylon Bee wrote that article about you. Alright, this is from Midget B over in the Discord from Bloomberg News. European Commission threatens to sue Germany. Here's how it could happen. This is from Karen Matusek and Stephanie Bodoni. Germany and the European Union are escalating a legal power struggle that could undermine the euro. On Sunday, the European Commission threatened to sue the EU's dominant economy after the German top court questioned the legality of European Central Bank's bond buying program. With the 27-nation bloc ravaged by the coronavirus pandemic, the standoff has major implications for the European project itself and the monetary policy that underpins it. Here's a look at how the legal nightmare might pull out. One, what infringement would the EU claim? Germany's constitutional court decided last week it wouldn't follow a 2018 judgment by the EU Court of Justice that cleared the central bank's debt purchases totaling 2.7 trillion euros, about $2.9 trillion since 2015. But under EU treaties, the top European court ranks higher, the German judges said they could deviate because the bloc's top judges overstepped their powers when they backed the ECB's policy in a previous ruling, but it was a stinging challenge to the 60-year-old EU tribunal that prompted a rebuke by European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen on Sunday. The final word on EU law is always spoken by the European Court, she said, nowhere else. 2. How can the EU sue a member country? The European Commission, the EU's executive and administrative body, has the task of policing whether the member states are abiding by EU law. If it finds the EU country isn't complying, it has to take action. The Commission first informs the country that it's in breach and tries to negotiate a solution. If that goes nowhere, the Commission files a court case. 3. How real is the risk of the case going to court? This warning by the Brussels-based guardians of the EU doesn't necessarily trigger an infringement policy, yet von der Leyen also has to consider the deterrent effect. The Commission cannot simply ignore this challenge to EU law. Miguel Maduro, a former advocate general of the EU Court of Justice, said in an interview, otherwise such national challenges might be replicated by other states. What would the Commission do if the Hungarian Constitutional Court or the Polish Constitutional Court or others do something like this? Is there a roadmap for such lawsuits? So-called infringement proceedings aren't unusual. Most of them don't make headlines because they often address very technical questions on EU regulations. However, they've usually resulted in a kind of give and take where EU complaints are resolved with policy changes or in extreme cases fines. Yet it's unlikely that Germany's top court would reverse its ruling if the European Court ruled against it. That could trigger an institutional crisis for the EU, making this statement that they're considering opening infringement procedure without actually opening it is smart, prudent approach, Maduro said. We'll just do one more off of this. Would the EU sue the German court or the German government? The EU can only sue member states. That kicks in if an institution in a country, even a court, allegedly breaks EU law. Under international law, countries need to ensure that their agencies are in line with the law and must fix any transgressions. So, there's a ton of politics that go behind this, and I'm not an advocate for the EU. I think all the nations should be able to do what they want. And the free trade thing should be up to whether or not they want to, but I don't even know what this is over, other than the fact that the EU central bank is buying up the stocks. But this could be a nightmare. This could be another spark. The world is looking at a lot of tensions right now, especially over the coronavirus outbreak, especially given the fact that a lot of European countries were closing their borders for the first time in 20 years or more at this point. So there's tension. People are blaming other people, and nobody knows what's going on over there. And now they're starting to go into financial war. So Europe is going to be something that we need to watch here coming up in the next few years. All right. Now we will move on and talk about Elon, and I've got one from Fox and one from CNN. From Fox, Chuck DeVore, Elon Musk's Tesla to Texas. California business exodus may shift into high gear because of this. And this disclaimer is an opinion piece. Tesla founder and CEO Elon Musk threatened to move his company headquarters and manufacturing plant, California's sole remaining auto factory, out of state to Texas and Nevada. Neither Texas nor Nevada has an individual income tax, and their corporate taxes are lower as well. With California's higher taxes, greater red tape compliance costs, higher labor and land costs, that's a mouthful, the more litigious environment, business analysts estimate the companies can save 32% of their operating costs by moving out of California to states such as Texas. Oh, but my warm weather in my Silicon Valley. California Governor Gavin Newsom, a Democrat, gave the clearance for the manufacturers in California to reopen on Friday, but Alameda County has extended its local shutdown order indefinitely. The county lockdown order brought Musk's frustration into the open as it prevents his flagship Fremont assembly line from reopening. The Fremont location has manufactured cars since 1916 for Chevrolet, General Motors, then a GM-Toyota joint venture from 1984 to 2010. Tesla took over the location in 2010. It's now California's last remaining automobile manufacturing facility. Musk announced via Twitter that Tesla is filing a lawsuit against Alameda County immediately. The unelected and ignorant interim health officer of Alameda is acting contrary to governor, the president, our constitutional freedoms, and just plain common sense. Musk continued, frankly, this is the final straw. Tesla will move its headquarters and future programs to Texas and Nevada immediately. Even if we retain Fremont manufacturing activity at all, it will be dependent on how Tesla is treated in the future. Tesla is the last car maker left in California. Musk appears to be channeling his inner Davy Crockett, who, after losing his campaign to get reelected to Congress in 1834, said, "You may all go to hell and I will go to Texas." In response to Musk, Democrat San Diego lawmaker Lorena Gonzalez tweeted, "Fuck Elon Musk," Saturday night. Texas immediately welcomed Musk to move, with Senator Ted Cruz tweeting, "Come to Texas, and we would welcome Tesla HQ in Texas. We love jobs, and Texas very much want to open up and get back to work, while staying safe and following sound science. We make lots of cars and trucks in Texas. We'd love more." And this is the piece of resistance. California can ill afford to chase away more jobs in the wake of the coronavirus crisis. Even before the virus hit, a longtime California commercial real estate developer, John Gischeli, saw California's deepening financial crunch as likely to lead to further tax increases. He moved to Texas last year and has created a company, Waterloo Capital Private Equity, that will arrange financing to move companies out of California. That is a slap in the face, right there. We have companies that specialize in moving other companies out of California. And these people want to secede from the U.S. So, good for Elon. May I suggest, instead of Texas, perhaps, come up and see the great state of Wisconsin, where we have a lot of people that know how to and love to make a lot of stuff. Lots of stuff. We love to make stuff. And even if you don't make your headquarters or anything else like there, or your next factory there, maybe throw another one up here. We'd love to make the stuff for you. And from what I've known or seen from going around the state, Wisconsinites do love their Tesla car. So, hey, we'd love to have them up here as well. So, come and check us out up here as well. All right, now one from CNN, also on Elon Musk. This is from Brian Fung over at CNN Business. Tesla and Elon Musk reopen California facility, defying orders meant to stem coronavirus spread. It's not about coronavirus spread anymore. I'm sorry to tell you this. Tesla CEO Elon Musk escalated his standoff with county officials in California on Monday as he announced the automaker would be restarting production today against Alameda County rules. The decision follows the executive's sharp Twitter outbursts in recent weeks objecting to state lockdown orders meant to stem the spread of the novel coronavirus. In a tweet on Monday, Musk said he would be at the factory on the line with everyone else. If anyone is arrested, he tweeted, I ask that it only be me. Musk has argued that restrictions put in place by Alameda County closing non-essential businesses, where Tesla's Fremont factory is based, are overly aggressive and unconstitutional. On Saturday, the company filed a federal lawsuit against the county. Musk has also threatened to relocate Tesla's manufacturing out of California. In a statement Monday afternoon, county officials said they are negotiating with Tesla on a plan to reopen the plant more fully. We continue to move closer to an agreed-upon safety plan for reopening beyond minimum basic operations by working through the steps that Tesla has agreed to adopt, the Alameda County Public Health Department said in a statement. These steps include improving employee health screening procedures and engaging frontline staff on their concerns and feedback regarding safety protocols. Musk said has won support from some of the Trump administration. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin told CNBC Monday that California's government should work harder to reopen the local economy. He's one of the biggest employers and manufacturers in California, and California should prioritize doing whatever they need to do to solve these health issues so that he can open quickly, or they're going to find he's threatened, he's moving production to a different state. But speaking to reporters on Monday, Governor Gavin Newsom deferred to county officials, saying that each county is reopening according to conditions on the ground. Again, it's a county-led enforcement, he said. Still, Newsom said he has great reverence for Tesla and its founder, and said he's spoken to Musk a number of days ago. In response, Musk tweeted, "Thank you, Governor Newsom." And this, by the way, keep in mind, is after Newsom slammed Musk for not giving him ventilators, and Musk came with receipts, so I think his days in California are numbered at this point. And like I said, there's this nice big manufacturing facility right in the middle of Kenosha that would love to have a new factory on it. Keep that in mind. All right. Another opinion piece, but this one is marked as an analysis piece. From CNN Politics, there's a rebellion brewing and Trump is egging it on. This is from Zachary B. Wolf. There's a COVID-19 rebellion brewing in Pennsylvania where counties led by Republicans and some businesses have said they'll defy Democrat Governor Tom Wolf's restrictive orders. Wolf has said he'll withhold stimulus funding from those counties if they ignore his orders. He's taking a tiered strategy to reopening the state and moved scores of counties to new, more open yellow phase. Some of those still in red don't want to wait for the state anymore. President Trump naturally cheered on the counties on Twitter on Monday and accused Democrats of trying to slow walk the opening to hurt him in November. For Trump, it's always about Trump, even if it's actually about public safety. And that is the point where we lost this as an analysis article. This is an opinion piece. 100% opinion. The president's tweet. The great people of Pennsylvania want their freedom now, and they're fully aware of what that entails. The Democrats are moving slowly all over the USA for political purposes. They would wait until November 3rd if it were up to them. Don't play politics. Be safe. Move quickly. Wolf later tweeted, the politicians who are encouraging us to quit this fight are acting in a most cowardly way. It's the opposite in South Dakota. Republican Governor Kristi Noem is fighting with the Native American tribes that want more restrictions, in part because they don't have easy access to health care. They've erected checkpoints to keep people out. Well, they're a sovereign nation, so they're allowed to. So, yeah, of course, like I said at the beginning, and like the title says, the people of the country are going to have an economy, even if they have to have a back alley economy. Where does that sound familiar? We will have our speakeasies. We will buy our stuff. We will gather if we want to. We will have the liquor. We will enjoy the gathering, whether you want us to or not. It's prohibition all over again, and of course, it's the same argument that they use on the abortion argument. Well, you better not outlaw it, otherwise we will have back alley abortions. All right, next one. From the Daily Wire, Rush Limbaugh, Obama's trashing Trump because he got caught in collusion scandal. This is from James Barrett. On his radio program Monday, conservative commentator Rush Limbaugh offered his theory on why former President Barack Obama has been spending so much time in recent days trashing Trump on his handling of the coronavirus pandemic. It's all deflection from the latest Russia collusion revelation starring Obama himself, said Rush. Obama is back in the news all of a sudden. Steady trashing Trump on corona, said Limbaugh. He's blaming Trump for coronavirus. He's blaming him for the reaction to the virus. He's blaming him for the chaotic set of circumstances in the lockdown. Why is Barack Hussein doing this? Rush asked. The real reason, according to the popular radio host, is the fallout from recently released documents on the FBI Russia collusion scandal, indicating that Obama was aware of the FBI's interview of Mike Flynn, an interview in which Attorney General William Barr has since concluded was effectively a perjury trap. Asked in an interview that aired last week after the case against Flynn was dropped if the evidence shows that the counterintelligence case against General Flynn was simply left open to lay a trap for lying, Barr said yes. The James Comey-led FBI kept the case open, the Attorney General said, for the express purpose of trying to lay a perjury trap for General Flynn. None of this Trump-Russia collusion stuff could have happened without Obama knowing about it, Limbaugh theorized. These people that perpetrated it, the FBI and the DOJ, the Comeys, the McCabe's, the Clappers, the Brennans, none of them could have done it without Obama knowing about it, at bare minimum knowing about it, at worst directing it. And that's an interesting point because, yes, we see that Obama is coming out and becoming much, much more vocal, but the documents are starting to show that he knew what was going on and that Schiff had nothing and Flynn was innocent. This is going to be an interesting and tumultuous time, and yet the Biden sycophants and the Obama sycophants are sitting out there trying to say that he done nothing wrong, and people need to ask Trump what Trump's accusing him of. Well, I would love to see more of this documentation. I'm not going to lay a full accusation on yet, but I mean, the documents are starting to show a not pretty picture on all of this. All right, next one. Grinnell declassifies names of Obama officials who unmasked Flynn. This is from Edmund DeMarche and Brooke Singman over at Fox News. Acting Director of National Intelligence Richard Grinnell has decided to declassify information about Obama administration officials who were behind the unmasking of Michael Flynn, whose calls with the former Russian ambassador during the presidential transition were picked up in surveillance and later leaked, and their names could soon be made public, a source confirmed. A source confirmed. My God, how can they get away with this shit? If I tried to say, hey, a source told me this, I would be raked over the coals, but Fox and CNN can just get away with it. Fox News confirmed that a new round of documents is expected in the wake of a document dump last week that renewed focus on the Russia investigation and specifically the treatment of Flynn. The unmasking concerns events between November 2016 election and Inauguration Day 2017, Fox News is told. Another source familiar with the intelligence told Fox News that Grinnell is moving to declassify several pieces of intelligence in stages, with this being one part of it. Asked if former President Barack Obama's name is on the list of officials involved in unmasking Flynn, the source said it would not say but stressed the list would make waves. The Wall Street Journal, which reported on the looming release overnight, cited a senior government official who called Grinnell's move unprecedented, as it came just days after the Justice Department dropped its case against Flynn, President Trump's first national security advisor. It is now up to Attorney General Barr to release the names publicly. Unmasking occurs after U.S. citizens' conversations are incidentally picked up in conversations with foreign officials who are being monitored by the intelligence community. The U.S. citizens' identities are supposed the U.S. citizens' identities are supposed to be protected if their participation is incidental and no wrongdoing is suspected. However, officials can determine the U.S. citizens' names through a process that is supposed to safeguard their rights. Officials in the Obama administration have acknowledged they unmasked some Americans in intelligence reports, but insisted that their reasons were legitimate. Susan Rice, Obama's former national security advisor, said she unmasked the identities of Trump officials during the transition. According to ABC News, she has denied leaking their identities or being politically motivated. So, yeah, this is going to be an interesting one to watch. I don't condone, of course, the spending of more money to go after more of this and more of this and more of this, but the other side of that, of course, is, as I keep saying, if they're continually investigating each other, they're not making laws that affect my life. So, half dozen in one, six in the other. I don't know. All right, two more, and then we'll read Twitter trends. From the Daily Wire, from Ryan Saavedra, Trump cutting retirement investment ties between U.S. and Chinese equities. President Donald Trump is cutting investment ties between the United States and Chinese equities, according to a letter from National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien and National Economic Council Chair Larry Kudlow to U.S. Labor Secretary Eugene Scalia. It's come to our attention. Okay. It has come to our attention that billions of dollars from our federal employees' retirement funds in the Thrift Savings Plan will soon be invested in Chinese company, reads the letter, which was first obtained by Fox Business. This action would expose the retirement funds to significant and unnecessary economic risk, and it would channel federal employees' money to companies that present significant national security and humanitarian concerns because they operate in violation of U.S. sanction laws and assist the Chinese government efforts to build its military and oppress religious minorities. The Federal Retirement Thrift Investment Board is departing from the board's established index for the International Stock Investment Fund. To track one that maintains Chinese equities is risky and unjustified, the letter states. In addition to the certainties surrounding the financial reporting of these companies, some of the Chinese companies themselves present significant national security and humanitarian concerns for the United States, which increase the risk that they could be subject to sanctions, public protests, trade restrictions, boycotts, and other punitive measures that jeopardize their business and profitability, the letter reads. The list of companies that would receive federal retirement funds under the board's decision includes, for example, military contractors that provide military aircraft and telecommunication support to the People's Liberation Army. So this is interesting, and this may not be top-level news. This may not be something that makes the top of the Fox News headlines, but it is interesting because we've been looking for the past few weeks at the end of globalism as we know it. Because China screwed us on the supply chain line, and I would be willing to bet there are a lot of other countries out there that would as well. They held for their own after making contracts with us and broke a lot of contracts, and they're not reliable anymore. We saw a true face with this, and that's got to be incentive enough to bring more manufacturing back to these shores. Yes, I understand your wish items are cheaper, but, I mean, for God's sake, if they would do that to us, they would cut us off at a moment's notice, even after they have your money in their hand from your wish order. So, to protect the American people from Chinese supply lines and Chinese investment being a part of their stock portfolio, and that's the other thing too. I mean, if we sanction China, or if we tariff war with China, or, and I know that's a dirty word as well, or if China starts to crumble for the fact that they're not manufacturing for us anymore, that's going to affect people's retirements. They do need protection from that. So I think that's a good thing. I may be wrong on that, but I think that's a good thing. The last part. Supreme Court hears arguments in Trump tax return cases. This is from Ron Blitzer and Bill Mears over at Fox News. The Supreme Court on Tuesday will hear oral arguments via teleconference in high-profile cases centered on whether President Trump can be shielded from congressional and state subpoenas for his personal banking and accounting records. I can't believe we're still talking about this. The first two cases, Trump versus Mazars and Trump versus Deutsche Bank, have been consolidated as they both deal with Democrat-led House committees subpoenaing records, including tax records from Trump financial institutions. At issue is the extent a sitting president can be subject to congressional oversight under valid legislative purposes of his private business's dealings before he took office. I don't know. Is there a crime out there? Because I'm pretty sure that there's still Fourth Amendment protection that go along with the president. And that's been a question that we've had for this entire administration. Do the Fourth and the Fifth Amendment apply to a sitting president? The House Oversight Committee subpoena came after the president's former attorney, Michael Cohen, testified his client underreported or overstated figures to the government. Cohen is serving a 3-year federal sentence for lying to Congress in financial-related offenses. The House Intelligence and Financial Services Committee subpoenaed Deutsche Bank and Capital One for records of Trump, his adult children, and his businesses, which may or may not include his tax returns, as Deutsche Bank has claimed they do not have them. Those records come in the context of a probe of lending practices by major financial institutions and allegations of Russian money laundering. In these cases, the president has argued that the committees lacked a legitimate legislative purpose for wanting the records and that they are merely trying to expose the president's personal information. Following arguments for these cases, the Supreme Court will shift Trump versus Vance, in which the president is fighting against a grand jury subpoena from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, seeking records from the Trump Organization and the accounting group Mazars that include the president's tax returns. Trump contends that, according to the Constitution's Supremacy Clause, a state court should not be allowed to investigate a sitting president, which is true. Lower courts disagreed and ruled that prosecutors are able to enforce the subpoenas, but they remain blocked while the Supreme Court handles the case. So this is the problem that I have with this. And once again, this has nothing to do with what I think is in there. Yes, I would love to see the president's financial records, but I'm not entitled to do so, and neither is anybody else. We have laws against unreasonable search and seizure. There's no reason for them to be seeking that. If he doesn't want them out there, he doesn't have to have them out there. It's not a law to have the president's tax returns. Yes, it's been a good faith tradition that presidents have done so, but it's not a law. And if you want it to be a law, make a law and see if the president signs it, or see if you can get a veto-proof majority back in Congress to support the law. But there's no law. He's breaking no law by withholding this. At that point, there's no reason for you to be subpoenaing it, and the Supreme Court should rule that there's no reason to release it because there's no law being broken. There's nothing being broken here. And once again, if they're going to go after the president violating the Fourth and Fifth Amendment, or Kavanaugh, or Flynn, or anybody else they're going to go after violating these amendments, imagine what they're going to do to you and me. That's the biggest problem with this, is what they're going to do to you and me when we fall out of favor with the government. Because they can get away with doing it to Trump. They can definitely get away with doing it to you. You'll wind up in a gulag somewhere so fast you won't know what'll hit you. Everything that you've done will be exposed, and they will drag you through if you do something they don't like. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind when you start demanding these things, and there's no law being broken, nothing to warrant the fact. There's no warrant, there's no legal basis for a subpoena, there's nothing. There's no law being broken here. And that's going to be it for news. Let's look at the Twitter trends for the day so I can lose my faith in humanity, because I regained it yesterday. So we'll go back up to home on Twitter. We will refresh so we get the freshest Twitter trends. All right. Politics trending. Transition to Biden. The transition to Biden to his nursing home went smoothly. Thanks for asking, y'all. Thanks, Little Miss Opinion. Transition to Biden. Why? Who will vote for him? Except for top and media people are sick to death of deep state liars and cheats and ache for them to be convicted for their crimes, and Biden is pals with all of them. America needs stability and needs a leader who isn't stark raving mad lunatic. Transition to Biden. So This has been taken up by a lot of people. Of course, the left on Twitter wants to transition the government into Biden, and the right wants to make fun of Biden by using the trend for him. So that's fun. Celebrities trending: Jeff Goldblum. The World According to Jeff Goldblum. I see that on the Disney Plus, and I'm kind of curious about it, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie. That guy is a nut, and I'm sure he's a big time lefty. But I bet you his documentary would be entertaining. Not gonna lie, I underestimated Jeff Goldblum in the spinning heel kick. So apparently there was a shirtless fight out there somewhere with somebody that looks like Jeff Goldblum. It's not actually him, but it sure looks like him. So that's why that's trending. Politics, Asian Americans. Minnesota's first and current Asian American GOP chairwoman appointed to President Trump's Advisory Committee on Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. The spotlight is on J.K. Karna. Looks like there is a PBS docuseries on Asian Americans. And of course, because we talked about the CNN exchange, 70% of all doctors in America are Asian Americans, and that does not include nurses, paramedics, pharmacists, and first responders. If you think they're part of the problem, they've been just as much a part of the solution. Fuck your racism. So yes, of course, Asian Americans is going to trend because Trump told an Asian American reporter to ask China. All right, CNN poll, which goes along with the article that we read, of course. CNN poll finds CNN is the best. Trust information on coronavirus from CDC 74%, Dr. Fauci 67%, CNN 55%, Trump 36%, Fox 35%. From a CNN poll, of course. Never get your information from one poll. Aggregates, aggregates, aggregates. And last trending in America, Doctors Without Borders. The coronavirus crisis in Navajo Nation has gotten so bad that Doctors Without Borders just sent a team into the United States. The nation's most populous reservation has a higher per capita coronavirus infection rate than any state. That's interesting. Doctors Without Borders also just sent a team to the Navajo Nation because the U.S. has abandoned them. The only equipment Trump sent them were body bags, just body bags. Epic embarrassment, failed state. Yeah, I'd love to see some documentation on that because it does not sound like something the government would do or should do. That sounds like more of a state thing. But I'm actually going to add that out to the stack for tomorrow here, and we're going to call it a day for here. So we will be back here later on today with some more gaming. We'll be playing some more Fallout New Vegas on the vanilla game. It'll be a lot of fun, and if you're not into vanilla gaming, then we will be back here tomorrow with more contemporary, and make sure you go and check out the interview I just did with Adam Kokesh. He's got a lot to say and not a lot of time to say it, but we got a lot of information out of him, and it was a good time. So go and check that out. Check out Gaming Tonight. I'll be looking very much forward to a little bit of an unwind and playing some video games. It was a busy weekend, that's for sure, and a busy Monday as well. Or we'll be back here tomorrow with more news. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.